Salãmun Alaykum. In the name of God, is gracious, most merciful. Masha Allah, with the grace of God, we're here to attend another Quran study. It's absolutely a blessing from God that we're here. It's nothing good in our part. I'll be reading through Surah number 26, verse 123, inshallah, to 175. So these are series of God is telling us prophets what happened, and one after another. It's amazing. It's worth mentioning that this is in the beginning when God says in this surah that you may blame yourself. So when you really try to understand how God is laying out this whole surah, is the stories are summarized. There are a lot of details is missing. It's like when you want to motivate yourself, you write short verses somewhere that when you can look at it to remind, like a reminder type of situation. And this is how it looks like God has constructed this surah. Short verses get to just on the point. Like whenever if a prophet is feeling down and like you have such a powerful message, everything is crystal clear, and people are not listening to you, and you start to blame yourself. It's God. This is such a comforting surah for anybody who is preaching and is not taking it seriously, and you blame yourself. You can come and read this surah. The verses are small, short, quick, and just like a notes. You can. It's the second longest surah as far as the verses count. And you can sit down and you read, and that really shows you and comforts you. Don't worry about it. So the next one is Prophet Hud, Messenger Hud. God is talking about verse number 123. Ad believed. Ad disbelieved the messengers. Their brotherhood said to them. Their brotherhood said to them, "Would you not be righteous? I am an honest messenger to you. You shall reverence God and obey me. I do not ask you for any wage. My wage comes from the Lord of the universe." So here you will see, inshallah, see the next few messengers in the same paragraph is repeated over and over. Same message, same cycle, and it's a same result over and over, no matter what. You see, the brother messenger Hud, if you read surah number 11, verse number 53, let's pull it up here. They said, "O Hud, you did not show us any proof, and we are not abandoning our gods on account of what you say. We will never be believers with you." So these people are claiming that the Hud did not show them any proof, but we learn from that all the messengers were supported with some sort of proof. It is their choice not to look at it or not consider as a proof, as we can see with the messenger of covenant also, that such a, God says, is one of the greatest miracle, which is alive all the time. Anybody can see it anytime. It's like the Moses parting the sea, and if the water would stay there forever, holding down each side, and anybody wants to go and visit and look at it. So this is one of that live miracle that is active all the time. Anybody can come visit, but people they don't consider it as a miracle. So as a prophet messenger Hud, and I'm not sure how he was supported. Maybe somebody you can share. Coming back to the verse, so Hud also gave him the same message that he is the honest messenger. There's no doubt, and that they should reverence God. One of the criteria of a messenger, not only is they have a proof, is are they seeking anything? If somebody was to be seeking money, fame, power, being popular, or any kind of worldly matter, then there is a problem with their message. A person who is seeking only God and the life after death has absolutely He does not want anything in this world. Would you think when this person would be lying? That's a very a test. Like you can test somebody with this simple situation, that if this person is asking, because this person is not, doesn't want anything from this world at all, no money, nothing, and his all hopes are in the hereafter. What would this guy gain from lying? Because if this person is not carrying the right message and he's not a messenger, this person is lying, and he knows very well that God will punish him severely, because this person was not a messenger. And what would he gain from again saying that he's a messenger? If he's a really messenger, then he's obeying God and he's really seeking God. So if he's lying, he doesn't get anything in this world because he doesn't want anything from you, and his hereafter is doomed. So this person either is completely out of his mind, he's crazy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. If that is the case, then his message would be corrupted too. So this is one of the criteria that you can test somebody if this person is really a messenger or not, just looking at the messenger, what the message he's brought. So Messenger of the Covenant himself, at one place, he says that whatever the money comes in as a charity, he puts his money into it, so to make sure nothing goes into his pocket. He doesn't want anything. And that's what he is telling them too, that my wage comes from God. I don't need anything from you. I just want you to look at my message. Just like when you go to the store somewhere, the people are not on commission, they'll come and tell you right up front, we're not on commission. We'll give you the right advice. So whatever you need, just let us know. And then you really trust these people more because they are not on commission, they are on salary. So they will not tell you something like that. And then let's go to the next verse, verse number 128. You build on every hill a mansion for vanity's sake. You set up buildings as if you last forever. And when you strike mercilessly. Sorry, I just woke up. My tongue is not. You shall reverence God and obey me. Reverence the one who provided you with all the things you know. He provided you with livestock and children and gardens and springs. So here's he telling these people that you are building mansions and everything. I mean, having money and all these and hoping for a lot of money, it's not condemned. Like we learned from Surah 38, verse 34, where God says that he put Solomon to test, and paraphrasing, and but he steadfastly submitted. And then what he does, he says, verse number 35, Surah 38, verse 35, that he says that he said, my Lord, forgive me and grant me a kingship never attained by anyone else. You are the grantor. So God gave him not only money, if the winds were on his command, they can listen to animal talk, and many other jinns were in his control. So this is a kingship that never attained by anyone, as we can see. Like Qarun had a lot of money, and a lot of other power people have a lot of power, money or forces. But this kind of kingship, where he was not only running humans, he was running animals, he was running jinns and devils, and they were under his control. So that is clearly kingship that absolutely not have attained. No human ever in the history of mankind have controlled all these things at the same time, or even at any point of like jinns and controlling. So seeking wealth is not, but then money comes, there's a test with the money. So if you're wishing for a lot of money, then make sure you do, there's going to be a test, and that can really shake your submission. So we have to watch out for that. And he's saying that you build as you last forever. And that's the easy verse to understand, verse number 129. We can clearly see as we grow older, every once in a while you hear someone in our family, in our friend's family, or in a neighborhood, some elder person dies. Every once in a while, we hear someone pass away. As I myself growing up, some grandfather died, this person died, this person died, and my very young age, I can see my grandfather can't even walk, and this person has to be assisted. So this is the reality of the life. We start off with we cannot do anything, and we end up where we need help. And we sort of think that this will not happen to us, but this is an easy challenge to anyone that, and they will not disagree to this fact, at least this fact, that every soul shall taste death. Everyone will agree to this 100%. That yes, no one will disagree to that. That we are even an atheist will admit that yes, we will die one day. But are we doing anything? So this person is saying, the who is saying that you are doing stuff that you're gonna live here forever, but then life is too short. Um, and then you strike mercilessly that you have no compassion, no mercy in your heart when you do something you don't even care. Like there's no consequences. That he's telling you shall reverence God and obey me. That whatever you're doing, everything is accounted. Not a seed of grain uh, is not out of God's sight. Everything will be brought to justice. We think there are free lunches in this world. No, everything is monitored very precisely, closely. It's like 20 cameras focused on us, like 4K cameras, 24/7, even while we're sleeping, just to put in some sort of perspective, that this is the true reality. And everything from every angles we are being watched. That's just the physical aspect of it. Our thoughts, there are cameras on our thought. Innermost thought is monitored. Everything that we are thinking is being recorded at any moment. God knows our innermost thoughts, so we can clearly see that everything is being recorded. And then it says, reverence the one who provided you with all the things you know. That's another great verse, that anything that we know in this world, any basic things, even down to speaking, when we want to say something, we just think and we say. Have you visited somebody who has aphasia, like a medical disorder, where their mind is thinking something, but they cannot bring it to their tongue? There's a linking nerves that they cannot say it. They're thinking, they desperately want to say it, but they cannot say it. Basic things, even down to walking. Who's teaching us? God is teaching us every single. I mean, we're not even talking about something very complex things that somebody is a brain surgeon. I mean, this is just a simple things. Everything is taught by God. We didn't know anything. Even when a child is born, the basic things to eat and cry for pain and everything, we bring it with us. Who taught us? God taught us. Then he says, and he provides you with livestock and children and garden and spring. So all these things are given by God. So he's reminding them who gave you. Just ponder upon these things. Then let's go to the next verse. 35. See if I miss anything here. Verse 135. And then he said, I fear for you the retribution of an awesome day. They said, it is the same whether you preach it or not preach. That affliction was limited to our ancestors. No retribution will ever befall us. They thus disbelieved, and consequently we annihilated them. This should be a lesson, but most people are not believers. Most assuredly your Lord is the Almighty, most merciful. So verse 135. So I mean, he has fear. He cares about these people. He grew up with them. These are my family members, friends, community, and he has compassion for them, that whatever they're doing, they're gonna hurt. As we feel for our family and friends, and there's something they're doing wrong, and we feel similar way that when they are in pain, we feel the pain, and he is feeling the pain already, that he knows what's going to happen to them. It's not a joke, and he's fearful for them, and he's caring about them. And what are the responses? So completely opposite of what he is feeling for them. They say, oh, whatever you're telling me, whether you preach us or not, it's not going to change our mind. Our mind is already made up. So they completely denial, they disbelieve. It's worth mentioning that hypocrite versus disbelievers. So these people, they got the message and they disbelieve. They didn't go that, oh, we believe you, and then change their lifestyle and they become, they say they're a believer, then they're doing wrong things. So that is the borderline of that's you entering hypocrite, which is far worse than a disbeliever, as we learned from the beginning of the Quran, that hypocrites. So, and then one thing to really focus here is that there's only three categories that is mentioned in the Surah 2 in the beginning, that believer, disbeliever, and hypocrite. And so if there's only three categories, there's no other category. So we will be in one of these categories, and one can easily see that either I am a hypocrite and I'm a disbeliever, or I am a believer. There's no third category. So if you want to be in the believer category, there's things required. If somebody say I'm a believer but does not act on it, then you go into the hypocrite category. Somebody completely flat disbelieve, then he's a disbeliever, which is far better than hypocrite, but not you still don't want to be in that area. But so these people, they disbelieve. And what is their answer is that the retribution, the affliction that you're talking about in verse 137, they said that is only limited to our ancestors, and that no retribution will ever befall on us. This is a very common human mentality. We read in the Quran, we see all these stories of why God is mentioning all these prophets and what they happened to their community. And even growing up in traditional Islam, we just always thought that, oh, these are just stories, this happened to people before us, we are different people. Somehow we just always differentiate ourselves from the previous generations, but this is not. We are the same people. We have the book, we have the messengers and prophet, and we are in the same kind of same situation we are. And if we disobey God's book, same affliction will befall on us. Why do you think God is talking about these people that messenger came and they gave them the message and they disbelieve, or they become hypocrite, and what happened to them? Why is God is telling us? This is because you are in the same situation. Do you think God is just amusing you from the previous stories? This is a lesson for us to learn that if we do the same behavior, this is what's going to happen, no matter what. It's like you turn on the stove, the fire comes on. That's how simple you can explain. So then God says in 39 that they disbelieve, and consequently we annihilated them. This should be a lesson, but most people are not believers right here. So this is a lesson for who? For people they gone. Quran came in 1400 years ago. So this is a lesson. This was a lesson, no. When Quran came, God said this is a lesson for most people. So this is present and now on. God didn't say this was a lesson for them, they should have learned, but you guys are not worried about it. No, this is a lesson for us. We should ponder upon that. We should not leave a stone unturned to make sure from those three categories we land on the believers, not on the disbeliever or hypocrites. And then what God says in the 140, most assuredly your Lord is almighty, most merciful. You know the word most assuredly, if you Google the word assuredly, the result comes up. There are a lot of definitions. It's without a doubt, certainly. And when you put such a strong word, and when you put most right before it, it even becomes so critical. Most assuredly. And whenever I read these verses, like where God is saying, strengthening his statement with these kind of adjectives and words, it just should shake our soul that God does not have to say that. But God is saying, most assuredly, your Lord is almighty, most merciful. That your God is almighty. He is the King of the King, the supreme, the most powerful. And at the same time, he is the most merciful. So imagine a country that is extremely powerful in the world, but they are very, very merciful. And if they are merciful to you, imagine how much security you will feel. As a, these are the powerful country and they are nice too. If you live in a small country and they say we will protect you or something like that. So here God is saying, if you ally with God and if you obey God, He's Almighty, most assuredly, and He's the most merciful. He will take care of you. And since we're reading these stories of these messengers, that what happened to them and how God protected them, with Abraham even coming out of fire, and Moses out of the lion's den, God saved him. And these are God's promises, and God says His promise will certainly come true. And we go to verse number 41. Let's see. I'm sorry, I wrote these notes very quickly last night, so I'm just going to try to go over just the verses. Verse 141, here we're talking about Saleh. So Samud disbelieved the messengers. Their brother Saleh said to them, would you not be righteous? I am an honest messenger to you. You shall reverence God and obey me. I do not ask you for any wage. My wage comes only from the Lord of the universe. So, same message. It's just a messenger, different messenger. And he's saying the same thing, that I am, he was their brother, their family, their community. And he said, I'm an honest messenger, that you shall reverence God and obey me. And he's saying the same thing. I don't need anything from you. Don't you see? I'm not going around and asking for charity and money. And I have, with that money, I build a mansion and cars and everything. I mean, not car that time, but it's all the livestock and everything. And I don't need anything. All I'm telling you, there is only one God, that we should worship Him alone. That's my message. So you can justify me that if I'm a messenger or not. From Surah number 7, verse 75, we learn here that what do some of these people say, calling the arrogant leaders among His people, say to the common people who believe. So people they're arrogant and they're powerful, and those regular people who believe Saleh. So what are they telling them? How do you know that Saleh is sent by his Lord? They said the message he brought has made us believers. So they didn't even question. He's not asking for wage, or they didn't even bother to look at the miracle. They look at the message. And as we learn, God has put every heart with this message. It's in our center core that there's only one God. It's hidden inside. So they're saying the message. And what does those people say and respond to them? The arrogant ones said, we disbelieve in what you believe. So they're completely flat. They didn't believe him. So basically, same message, same going around. Okay, let's go to the next verse, 146. Do you suppose you will be left forever secure in this state? You enjoy gardens and springs and crops and date palms with delicious fruits, and you carve out of the mountains luxurious mansions. You shall reverence God and obey me. So he's trying to remind them that all this wealth and state, that those arrogant people that are like rich and everything, that you think you're gonna live there forever, or left there forever. Don't you see the easiest one, again, to go around and look at your elders? People go and visit the cemetery, a graveyard, to even stop and think about it. Who are these people? They were before me, and I will be here sooner or later. I don't know when. I don't even know if I will have another breath of air. This is how critical. Like somebody can just have a heart attack in the blink of a second and just pass out, because when you have a heart attack, your heart stops. Your brain shuts off immediately, and then that's it. And sometimes people die in their sleep. So there is absolutely no saying whenever we say something that I'm going to do this tomorrow, or when, we must say Masha Inshallah. And if you forget, instantly remind ourselves, say Inshallah, and pray to God that remind me more and more next time. Because whenever you plan something without God's will, it will not be done. and he's reminding them, you have these garden, beautiful gardens, spring running through, and you grow so much luxurious fruit, delicious fruits and dates and palms, and all of these giant mountains, and you can still see there are mountains that carve those times. uh, how hard to carve a mountain. Imagine that when we build a road through a mountain, they have to use those explosions to go through those mountains. It's a lot of hard work, but they used to carve it. Imagine what kind of art they have, machinery, or what they use to make rooms inside these stones. That's amazing. What and that God teaches and taught them all this stuff. So it's like, you think you're gonna live there forever? Go around, just look around the people, and then you shall reverence God. He is the one who's teaching you everything, who gave you everything. You have to and obey me. And whenever you read the verse, obey me, a messenger is saying, basically saying, obey God. I am the messenger. I am not something who's dictating you stuff. This is what is given to me, and this is what I'm going to pass it to you. That's what the status of a messenger. That's what I'm here to deliver. And then verse 151. Do not obey the transgressors who commit evil, not good works. They said, you are bewitched. You are no more than a human like us. Produce a miracle if you are truthful. He said, here's a camel that will drink only a day that is assigned to her, a day that is different from your specified days of drinking. Some of the Saleh people, that they were not powerful, they say we believe the message he brought, and they could have justified with he doesn't want anything. But now here's a miracle. A miracle is a camel, and we know that it's not easy to teach a camel. So God specified a day that camel will only drink from that day, and this alone should have a proof for them that camel will only go. Suppose it was every Friday, suppose, and camel will not even touch the water on any other day. Camel will get up and go to the water source and drink Friday and whatever, and that's it. So people who would think that that is something, because these people have camels, they are very well known of this livestock. They know how to take care of everything. So when they see this camel who's acting very completely different, a person who brought this and he's saying I'm a messenger, this is a proof for who would take it seriously. But those who are arrogant and they don't take heed, just what the people they're doing with Miracle of 19 is a similar situation. So what he's saying, 151, that you should not obey the transgressors who commit evil, and this is a general common sense that the people who commit evil and not good works. That's a simple lesson for us to people who transgressors. I mean, in our community and friends or something, we should not follow them. But what is the response? Is that you are bewitched, that you are cursed or something. They're making excuse for everything. He said, you're telling us not to obey these criminals or the bad peoples, or you are bewitched. They want to, their instincts are bad. They want to be that way. A lot of time people, when they learn about the submission or anything like that, few of the things that bother them is, one is that they have to follow all these rules. Another thing they fear is, what are their lifestyle? They have to let go some of the things. And these are the two factors that affect a lot of people when they hear a message. They're excited, but at the same time they say, oh, they're going to have to do 5-time contact prayer. They have to do this and this and this. And whatever the lifestyle, they have to let those go. So that's one of the things they're accustomed to doing all these crazy things, evil works and all that. So what they say in response, well, you are bewitched. We're not gonna follow you. And if you're truthful, produce a miracle. So when God sends a miracle as a camel, what they do? They disbelieve. So in verse 156, do not touch her with any harm, lest you incur retribution on an awesome day. So he's warning them. I told you the message. I told you this. I'm telling you good stuff. I'm not telling you something bad. I'm telling you don't follow the evil people and this and that. And to be honest with you, if you listen to even any videos or audios of the Message of the Covenant, not a single place is teaching you something bad. Amazing. So he's messenger too. Saleh, he's telling them good stuff. And then he's saying, I don't want anything from you. Here is a miracle. What else do you need? But that's human mind, how it works. Verse 11, I mean, surah number 11, where we get just filling up some of the gaps. I mean, some other things that seems like, see, this is the amazing Quran that God is, this surah is short verses. Whenever you're feeling down, messenger can come and read these verses quickly and then strengthen his faith. Okay, no, don't worry about it. You're not alone. But here's a little more detail on 1162. They said, "Oh Salih, you used to be popular among us before this. Are you enjoying us from worshiping what our parents are worshiping? We are full of doubt concerning everything you have told us." So this is like another mocking thing they're telling us. And then they're telling him instead, he's telling them good stuff. He said, "You used to be popular. What's wrong with you? You had everything, and you're acting this way. You're gonna be like, we're gonna punish you, banish you. Why are you putting yourself into this situation?" So verse 157. They slaughtered her, and thus incurred sorrow. The retribution overwhelmed them. This should be his lesson. But most people are not believers. Most surely your Lord is the Almighty, most merciful. Again, small stories, and God is showing the messenger that most surely your Lord is Almighty, most merciful. So that's it. This is your job. You do your job, and that's it. Don't worry about anything else. So what happened with the Salih people? They just disbelieved him, and they say, "Oh, this is not a miracle. This is just they slaughtered her, the camel." And what happened? Then the retribution came. This is the cycle repeats over and over. Nowadays, we live in a big communities, and most of the things happens incur on an individual basis as we learn. So the next messenger is Lot. Verse 160, the people of Lot disbelieved the messengers. Their brother Lot said to them, would you not be righteous? I am an honest messenger to you. You shall reverence God and obey me. I do not ask you for any wage. My wage comes only from the Lord of the universe. Again, just the messenger word is different. The same verse again and again. And I am an honest messenger, and then you shall reverence God and obey me. I do not ask for any favor, any wage. Just very clarifying, distinguish between an ordinary person and somebody who's telling you the truth. Again, same situation. I mean, if you would think a messenger, you think it's telling me something wrong, look at the message. What's wrong with the message? It's not somebody's telling you go do this evil thing. He's telling you something good. What's wrong? And you are objecting? Are you objecting to something good? And then this is just the same. I'm just gonna go talk about the next part of the verses. Sorry, my computer is. Something came up on that. Okay, 1 verse 65. So he's telling you, do you have sex with males of all the people? You forsake the wives that your Lord has created for you. Indeed, you are transgressing people. They said, unless you refrain, O Lord, you will be banished. He said, I deplore your action. So God has created us in a certain way, and we can clearly see the examples we get from the plant kingdom and animal kingdom. We don't see that kind of act going around in animals. Birds, they live in pairs in communities. We don't see those kind of horrible things going on in animal kingdom. At least we can learn from this. Something that the creature that have very limited knowledge and understanding, and humans, God blessed them with a lot of wisdom, and what we're doing. God is telling us why the homosexuality is condemned and how bad is it, and now we can learn. The Lot community was overwhelming majority of them, as we can understand, were committing this horrendous thing, and they were enjoying it, all this stuff. next we can if you read Surah 11 verse 77, and that gives you a lot of background, is when the messengers came, and they came in a human form, because how God is teaching us so amazingly that these messengers went to Abraham first, so he could not tell them that they are angels. So they came in a human form, and probably God made them in a very like Joseph, like somebody who was very attractive, and Abraham was just like sacrificed the calf and helping them, and I mean being a good host. So after he realized they are angels, so when they go to Lot didn't even realize them, because what Lot was saying, he was afraid that if you read verses in Surah 11, let me see if I can find that he was afraid. I'm going to just read one of the verses. When our messenger went to Lot, they were mistreated, and he was embarrassed by their presence. He said that is a difficult day, and Lot is saying that because when messengers came, people were like mocking Lot, and so his people came rushing. They had grown accustomed to their sinful acts. He said, "Oh my people, it would be purer for you if you would take my daughters instead." He went to that extent to offer them his daughter, because these were his guests, and he cared about them. He go to that extent, even so they don't commit that crime to his guests. And then he said, "You shall reverence God and do not embarrass me. Did my guests have you not one reasonable man among you? Not even one person." He said, "Your whole committee, not even one person can make a sense of what is you doing." And they said, "You know well that we have no need for your daughters. You know exactly what we want." He said, "I wish I were strong enough or had a prophet." So at that point, Lot did not have any idea these were messengers. And then after that verse, messengers comforted him that, "Don't worry, we are here to take care of you. We're going to save you. Don't worry about it." So amazingly, God, when tells us a story or something, when you look at the small areas where the details are hidden, then you come to the picture comes clear, that everything falls in the right spot. So, so here in 1 verse 65 to 168, he's telling them the same thing, that is telling you should live by rules, at least the basic, to at least what you're doing. It's beyond an animal behavior, and that what you are doing. And when some places in God said they're worse than they're like animals, but now God said they're worse than animals. And so sometimes we act so bad that even we don't even learn from simple creatures of God. 1 verse 169 says, "My Lord saved me and my family from their works." We saved him and all his family, but okay, pull this up. But not the old woman. She was doomed. We then destroyed the others. We showered them with a miserable shower. What a terrible shower for those who had been warned. This should be a lesson, but most people are not believers. Most assuredly, your Lord is Almighty, most merciful. So when it came to this point that Lot, he's like we just read in the previous surah, that he's saying, "I wish I was strong enough or had a prophet alive." For thought, he said, "I was strong. I wish I were strong." So but he's going back to God. He's praying to God, because God is the only one will protect him. He's putting his trust in God, that my Lord save me and my family. So if he had he done something like praying to somebody else, or telling those two messengers when he did not they were messengers, "You guys please save me," or something, put his trust on somebody else, then that would have been wrong. As we should always pray to God for any kind of in stressful situation we are, anything that happens, we should always pray to God that, "God save me." For if any help comes from anyone else, is we know that God has sent this help, and we should not deviate from this thought or behavior. Then God is saying, "We saved him and his family, but the old woman, she was doomed. We then destroyed the others." So these two verses, 171, 172, there's different word is used. For woman, God says doomed, but said we then. So she was doomed first. When we then destroyed the others. So this is a very serious situation. If you look at the understanding the word doomed versus destroyed, it's the doomed is a far more critical, worse than destroyed. Why is that? Because she was the wife of the messenger. You are in a situation that you should have been supported him. You were his wife. In fact, you disbelieved. Now that is a very serious situation. That's why God did not just. And she was a woman. She was not even committing that crime. I mean, just to even think about it. These people out of the community. They were. I'm not sure that what involvement she had in any of that. She was supporting the act or what, but as my understanding, we can discuss or you can tell me if you have any information about that. That I think that she was disbelieved in Lot on his message, but at the same time, you think about it, she was not doing all those, probably not doing all those crimes, but then she was doomed, worse than the destroyed. Um, that's what my understanding comes to, because in wherever situation you are, it really means a lot. Suppose our test is based on. Let me see if you have some notes here. Is in which situation you are. Not everybody is judged in the same way. You are judged based on your situation. How much, what amount of information you have, what situation you are, or what amount of information you may be able to access, or you have it's available to you, or you choose not to, or if you it's available to you but you choose not to access it. All these different criterias and applies to anyone, and they will be based on that judgment. That's comes to understand. Like if you have two employees and you send them into somewhere for about a month for some assignment, they have to work, then you send an email to both of them about specific project they have to do. And suppose one employee gets the whole email, the other employee gets a partial of the message, very small amount. So the person who gets the small message, which has a lot, very small detail, that he just found one thing to do, but the other person got 10 things that he has to do. So the person who gets the 10 things, he will be responsible because he got the whole message. And the person who only got one thing, the email was only corrupted and he only got one message, so he did what he did. So when they come reporting to the boss, the one who got the 10 things, he cannot say, oh, he only did one thing, I did 10 things. No, because that's what he got. So his judgment will be based on that one. Boss will not blame him that, what about the 9 other things? Because he didn't get the message. So we have to understand how much information God has sent to us, how much amount of message we have, how much, and the story does not end. Some people think that, oh, I will not read, so I don't expose to the message, so I will not be responsible. That's not true. If you have access to the message and you choose not to access it, then you have to report to that too. It's like the other employee who got the one assignment, but he has way to get to the rest of the email, but he chooses not to. Then he will have to be responsible for that too. That, okay, you got only one assignment, but there's a way you can get the rest of the email. You can email the other employee, or you can email us. We could have send you back. You choose not to do it. You just did the one assignment and then you came back. So we are responsible for our action. God knows our innermost thoughts, why we do what we do. It's everything is precisely calculated, and it will be present to us on the day of resurrection, that no one can say, oh, I did not have access to this information. God may say, okay, you had access to the internet, you pick out some specific information, you spent the whole day for something, and you found that information about some specific topic, but you didn't have time for my message, which was clearly available to you. So we are responsible for our actions. And so is the messenger of the wife of the messenger, who had access to all this information, but she chose not to. And then verse 174, 175, God said, this should be a lesson, but most people are not believers. Most truly your Lord is almighty, most merciful. And same thing happened to the Lot community, and they were, the whole community was doomed. As you know, the homosexuality is spread out, and we know some diseases that only afflicts certain community and I don't have to give you any detail. You can just go and learn about what specific disease. I mean, don't we learn from this? There are messages in why this happens. It's God's system, a specific system. And when you disobey God's system, God would not go out and destroy the whole city. God, whoever is committing whatever crime they're committing, they're picked out, handpicked, and they get their results. So inshallah, I'll stop here on verse number 175, and we will discuss about. And if anything that you think I made a mistake on, and we can discuss on it, because God is, and you should pray to God all the time. I mean, more that to increase our knowledge, because He's the one who's going to teach you the right knowledge. Will open your heart and mind, so we understand His book more and more. This glorious Quran. So inshallah, open at this time. Thank you.
Masha Allah, Adam, good Quran study.
MashaAllah, praise God for all the blessings.
Thank you, Adam. MashaAllah.
MashaAllah. I'm gonna log off from the computer and log in my tablet. Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. I have a comment. Can you hear me?
Yes, Masha, we can hear you.
Okay, Masha. Uh, this surah talks about different messengers, communities. The messengers will come, give the message, and how those who will not take any heed from the message will respond. It's almost the same response, um, because all these people have already made up their mind. And look at these people saying here in, excuse me, I'm a bit sick. Uh, 136. They said, it is the same whether you preach or not preach. That affliction was limited to our ancestors. No retribution will ever befall us. They thus disbelieved, and consequently we annihilated them. This should be a lesson. But most people are not believers. Um, so people know about the history of previous generations who refused the message and they were annihilated. But they think they're right. They're doing everything right. This was about the previous generations. They were wrong. Every generation thinks whatever they're following their parents' footsteps uh, is that's it. No question to be asked, no brain needs to be used, and they refuse the message without taking any heed. Their minds are made up. It's absolutely like God says in the Quran, use your brain. I have given you faculties that no other creature has. But human beings do not want to question the information they have or verify the truth or see any proof. This is really profound. And they are saying it doesn't matter to us whether you give us all this information or you don't. We don't believe that. Basically, these are the people who really do not believe in the hereafter. And that's in every time, with every generation. Uh, Time after time, God has sent messengers with clear proofs, clear revelations, and their rejected messengers are rejected, and people upheld their parents, grandparents, whatever they were doing without any using their brains. It is so useless. So, and we think this time it would be different. It's the same thing, you know. Messenger of the covenant came and giving the message, and all the traditional Muslims are rejecting the message. They do not want to uphold the Quran alone. And they say, oh, well, those were the disbelievers of previous times. They were annihilated. But look at the world now. It's like you see annihilation in every corner of the world. A very little piece is left in the world because majority is the disbeliever. This is what God says. But most people are not believers. Most. So majority are disbelievers. And then majority of those who believe do not do so without committing idol worship. So those who are devoted to God alone and do not ever commit idol worship are very, very few. So the history is very important to look at because people haven't changed. It's gonna be the same system forever. That's it for now, Masha Allah.
Yeah, mashallah, sister, is about the parent that people say that we believe what our ancestor do, or like Abraham when he was confronted these people, when he broke the idols, and they said, I mean, even before that, he's asking them that why do you worship? They said we saw our ancestors, our grandparents, and people doing this, and we are devoted to them. That's the response they gave us, and we learned clearly. We can see it in our daily life. People follow what they're born in, what they saw their parent do, and they're devoted to them. And if they're confronted with, okay, this is wrong in your religion or something, and people become defensive, and this is the pretty much the answer. There's one person. I don't want to mention the religion, but so he's in a situation. So another person who was telling him, okay, open your book and this and that. Look at this that does not teach your religion. What you're doing, you guys are doing this wrong. Clearly in your own scripture. And even this person rejected his own book. I said, I don't care, but I will follow what my parents are doing. So this is a common behavior. Anybody in any form they're born, we tends to follow our parents. And there's a couple of things I want to discuss here. That one thing is that, yes, when it comes to religion, we blindly follow our parents. Don't think that we are respecting our parents. The reality of that is we don't care about the religion. That's the fact. Because when it comes to the worldly matters, like what you want to do in life, or where you want to live, or anything about the world, if our parents tell us something, a lot of time do you think we're respecting our parents? We tell, oh, you don't know anything. I've seen many kids telling their parents, even grown up, oh, mom and dad, you don't know what you're talking about. I need this job, or I need to do that. I don't. At that point, they know everything. But when it comes to religion, I follow my parents. I follow my parents. I mean, what a hypocritical statement that is. If for religion, if you say, oh, I will follow my parents, then why not everything else? You should listen and respect your parents in every matter. Your parent tells you, where are you going? I don't have to tell you where I'm going. I'll tell you when I come back. I mean, those kind of, but when it comes to religion, oh, we follow our parents. I mean, that does not make any sense. The other part slipped out of my head and shall remember and tell you. But this, you get my point that, when it comes to religion, oh well, our parents are the best, they know everything. But when it comes to worldly matters, oh no, we know more than our parents. That's the mentality. Thank you.
Just to comment on what Sister Nujrat and Adam was saying, I think also a lot of people, even if they know that you should be, even if they come to the understanding that only God alone is worthy of worship, and we only follow Quran alone, I think they don't want to ruffle feathers, and just by accepting God alone and Quran alone, a lot of people are separated from their family, and they know that, or they see their future and they're not willing to do it too. So basically they put the worldly life ahead of God.
Yes, they basically, because this is not important, right? Okay, we inherited, even though this is the most important thing of life, what is religion? What is death? What is life? Where am I gonna go from here? Do you think many people question this? No, whatever the world is running one way and they want to run with it. And that's about it, whatever the rat race is going on, they become part of it. 9 to 5 job, earning money, buying a house. I mean, that's all fine, that's human need. But that's all they think. Nothing about the. So, as we know, we have two basically segments of our existence. One is body and one is soul. So the element of soul isn't there. Completely lacks it. Because soul asks these questions. If soul is curious and wants to know, who am I? Where am I going? Why am I here? That is completely neglected. The other party, body, just feeding the body, clothing the body, sheltering the body. That's what animals do too. They don't have to clothe their body, Masha Allah. God has given them ready-made suits for each environment. They also reproduce, they eat, and then they die. But luckily, they're much better than us. That's why God said, no, they're far worse. Humans are far worse than animals, because animals do exactly the way they are designed from God to do whatever. And they're very lucky. When they die, they make it to heaven, mashallah. Because they never deviate, they do not rebel, they do not object to God. However design God has designed them, they follow. Well, we ask for the free will, and our free will is full of objections, unappreciation. They never unappreciate, they always appreciate. No matter how badly an owner behaves towards their dog, the dog will come back running to them, loving them, because they know this person feeds them. Human being is far worse than animals. And God has given such a beautiful example here. So those who never question the inherited knowledge, because they don't care about the soul. It's just all about this worldly life, unfortunately.
So basically that would boil down to disbelieving in the hereafter, isn't it? Although someone claimed to be a Muslim, and if they're just accepting what their parents did before, isn't that at the end of the day disbelief in the hereafter?
Yeah, either disbelief or hypocrite, one or the other, because there are only three criterias.
Yeah, it all boils down to they do not believe in the hereafter, because if the main criteria you look at of the belief is, believe in one God, believe in the hereafter, belief in the hereafter, there is a lot of lip service. Everybody says, oh, yeah, yeah. But they think they're going to heaven automatically, wishful thinking. Muhammad will take them, Jesus will take them to heaven, some intercessor, or following hadith. You do this, you say this many times, you are saved. You say this mantra this many times, you're saved. There's so much hocus pocus about the hereafter that Satan has really tricked them towards a whole different dimension or the way to go to heaven. Everybody's very peaceful. Nobody's even worried about the hereafter. They know they're not following the Quran. I'm talking about traditional Muslims. They don't do the zakat properly. They don't do the salat properly. Don't read the Quran. But they're still very gung ho about everything, like it's all well. The main issue is they don't believe in the hereafter. They're like, okay, whatever. We'll see, or whatever. It is guaranteed for us. Which I don't think they have any kind of faith. Yeah, Pamela, definitely that is the main factor.
Yeah, it comes down to like Surah 2, verse number 2. The scripture is infallible, a beacon for the righteous who believe in unseen, observe contact per salat, and from our provisions to them, they give charity. They believe in what was revealed to you and what was revealed before you, and with regards to hereafter, they're absolutely certain. So this is one criteria. So if you want to be landing in this criteria, you have to have minimum of these things that you're righteous. I mean, believe and then righteous is actually working on it with the contact prayer and zakat. And you have to be certain that you will be reporting to God. And when you have that kind of certainty that anything that you do in life, you know that the camera's on you and you will not do something intentionally wrong. And that's another thing people like sometimes, they say they judge the mistakes that, oh, I did do it. I made a mistake. But it depends how did you made a mistake. If you intentionally skip a prayer versus you forgot, completely forgot, or you overslept, these two different, you say, oh, I'm just going to miss a certain prayer. I will just repent. I don't feel like doing it. And the reason that you're skipping is also a factor. For some reason that you could have easily done the prayer, opportunity was there, but you choose not to read because there's something interesting going on, there's a game going on and you cannot leave the game or something. So all these factors play very different. So when you are certain about the hereafter, your attitude will change. Uh, everything is being recorded, and when you miss a prayer or something or anything that you did unintentionally, and then you repent after that. And God says, God accept the repentance of those who I'm paraphrasing that by something like by mistake, but they repent after that. It's not like they're deliberately committing sins and saying, oh, God is most merciful, he will forgive us. And they don't even ask for forgiveness. They say, oh, God is most merciful. I mean, this is all, doesn't make any sense,
I was talking to a friend recently, and so we're she wanted me to point out the corruptions. Um, uh, uh, she wanted me to point out for her the corruptions in the Bible. So I told her, like I'll just point out three of offhand three, and one was pork, and the other one was alcohol, and the other one I said to her was, would you read the story of Lot to your children? And her reply to me was, Lot was a sinner anyway. He was such a bad person that Abraham had to intercede for him to be saved. And the reason I brought this up is because we're dealing with Lot, and in recent issue on the topic of circumcision, we see that people are taking circumcision from the same book that my friend took the story of Lot from. And the question is, it's like, if the story of Lot is corrupted, then there's a possibility other places are corrupted too. So anyway, how do you answer a friend like that? So what it reminds me of, it's the verse that when God says, we narrate to you the most accurate history through the revelation of the Quran. Before this, you were totally unaware. And as Muslims, as submitter, we have the most accurate history. And the point is, why do we go back the previous scriptures if it does not confirm?
Masha Allah, Sister Pamela, very good point. Quran is the only accurate history we have right now. We have no proof to verify the previous history, which is not in the Quran and is out there in several previous books, because the reason Quran came and then God promised that nobody will be ever able to corrupt it. The real Quran will always be saved, even though the attempts of corruption has been made, but God's mathematical has preserved it. So anything we need for our salvation is in the Quran, which is not in the Quran, no matter where it is and how many previous books it is found. We don't care, because it's not for us and it does not exist, and it could be corruption, it could be anything, but that's not what the religion is. The religion is contained in this fully detailed and complete tablet, God says, a book of law, and narrates the most accurate history. So whatever we needed from the history is here, meaning the examples are from the history, so we can learn what other messengers brought, what was the response. That's the history. The other part is the statute book part of the Quran, which it has the most current laws. If there were any other laws beside this, either they don't exist anymore or they never were there. So we don't even have to worry about it. We have a proof, a tangible proof to verify that this is the most accurate information through the math miracle of Quran, that every word, every letter has been preserved. And this is all what you need. God says He did not leave anything out of this book. There's so much information. If the oceans were, ink, and all the trees were turned into pens, the word of your Lord will not run out. So it's like all these hadiths and sunnah fabricated to Prophet Muhammad are other words than God's words. It's like, Nauzubillah, God was short of words, and Prophet Muhammad came up with all this, his own information, and attributed to religion, which is pure garbage of people attributing lies to God and Prophet. So what we have as religion today is nothing but conjecture other than Quran.
And that comes to actually my second point. Actually, it's kind of a bit off topic, but not totally. So in verse 12:3, it says, we narrate to you the most accurate history. I seek refuge in God from Satan to reject it. 12:3. We narrate to you the most accurate history through the revelation of this Quran. Before this, you were totally unaware. So we know that before this, we had the previous scripture, right? Torah and the Injil. So then why would God says to us that before this you were totally unaware? God's telling us that this is the most accurate history, and before this we were unaware. If the other history was accurate, we would not be unaware. Am I reading that correctly?
Masha Allah, very good point. Praise God. Very good point. Yeah, first of all, Prophet Muhammad was unaware. Definitely, he was unaware because he was also Gentile. It's like there are two sides to this statement. Sorry, I just cut you off. I don't know if you finished it there or you still want to
I was
continue.
actually done.
So the first part is that people know, we know that Prophet Muhammad was Gentile. He was not, him and his family were not part of those who who were following a scripture, or they did not know any history, because people said, oh, these are tales from the past, right? They said, oh, all of this is in Bible, and this story of Moses, Abraham, and all that. So they thought he's just making it up. He just brought, a bunch of information from previous scriptures, and now he's just lying that he's a messenger, this and that. And the other is for this reference too, that this is the most accurate history, and you were not aware. Definitely some of the stuff, if he was aware, sorry, I'm losing my thought. Yeah. Of course, there is some stuff you will find which is very much in the Quran, but very little of that is left. So basically, Prophet Muhammad, this Quran was Prophet Muhammad's miracle, that he was not aware of the previous history at all, and how come he's revealing all of this information? That was the proof. So people had to believe in him because they knew he didn't know that. So this is how those who became believers right away were, because of they knew he was a very honest man and he had no knowledge of previous history.
Mashallah, mashallah. Thank you.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, and also we learned that people will say that there's somebody, he comes and teaches him. People will make all kind of excuses. They have a disease in their heart. They don't look at the message. The fascinating thing we learned from Surah 18, as the people of the cave, the Sabiqah. So, this is human mentality, and we see that all around us. I mean, here the prophet is telling them a story of the people of the cave. Again, and would you rather learn from the story, or would you ask questions, silly questions? God is prophet is telling them that there were these people, they didn't want to, they were to God, they didn't want to worship idols, and in fear of their life, they left the community, and how God protected them and raised them after so many years. And so there's a lesson to learn. But what people are asking, how many were they? There were 6, there were 7, there were 4, there were 3. They're focused on their numbers, not knowing that if you devote yourself to God, if you trust God, if you worship God and only submit to God alone, then magic starts to happen. But they're asking this silly question. And then when these people were discovered, what other people are saying? Let's build a mosque, because now they're thinking this place is holy. This place if we build a mosque here and we worship here, that's their mentality. We're going to get more credit. I mean, if you really go down to the core of this situation, you will start to see, oh my God, why you ask this question? Like, if I'm telling somebody an interesting story about someone who did a great thing, and this person who's listening to my story, he'll say, oh, what kind of shoes he was wearing? And I will be like, oh my God, why do you ask that? You should ask me, where did he go study? What did he do about his life? So maybe you can learn. And you're asking me what kind of shoes did he wear? What kind of clothes he was wearing? where did he where did he live? Maybe I can go live there. Maybe I can get it. I mean, all this kind of silly that tells about a human mentality. I mean, Masha Allah.
Salāmun Alaykum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Just a few things. If I don't lose my train of thought. That verse that Pamela mentioned, I guess you could read it in several different ways, because you could read it from a personal level as well, and it could apply to you personally, that this information that you're reading you didn't know about before. And when I think of some of the things Rashad pointed out to us, when I think back before we learned about submission, we didn't know these very, very important things about the importance of worshipping God alone, the importance of disregarding hadith, and following the Quran alone. So that's another way we could read that verse. So I think there's multiple layers or ways to read the verse from different perspectives. What else was I going to say? Some of the things Nadrat said before were very funny, actually, about traditional Muslims. I was laughing when I'm listening to what you were saying. Praise God. And also, everything good comes from God. So we know that even though God tells us in the Quran, we know that the Quran is the most accurate history because it's from God. And God is the absolute truth. And why do we know it's the most accurate history? Is because the mathematical miracle protects the integrity of the Quran. And that's why, that's another point about the previous scriptures. Quran's the final testament. So obviously, one reason it must have been sent to us is God must have wanted to correct things in the previous scriptures. And also, God will protect the Quran and protect its integrity, because he's saying it's the final testament. So he must protect it. Otherwise, at some point, we're going to go off track. And there was another point I was going to make, and now I forget. Oh, I know. Talking about, I think Pamela asked a question about, does it show a disbelief in the hereafter? I can't remember exactly what you were referring to, but ultimately everything exposes people's disbelief in worshipping God alone and realizing that God is only qualified to be a God. That's really what everything boils down to, and that's the whole purpose of this life. On a side note, actually, that's one of the things I'm trying to improve in myself, to be absolutely 1,000% certain about the hereafter. I think I can improve a lot on that. I think I am, God willing, but it's always good to reflect on how we can improve things in our beliefs. So that's one aspect I'd like to improve on. Okay, thank you. Praise God.
Yeah. About the hereafter, right? Masha Allah, I like the way you said it. See, like for Samitters, we all believe in the hereafter, right? And then God tells us in the Quran that which prophet was it? He gave them the awareness of the hereafter. Was that Abraham? Which prophet God talks about? So I think the one thing is the knowledge and one thing is being aware of it, right? That how we become, mashallah, I don't think any of us have any doubt about the hereafter. It's the how much we per day we are aware of it. That's what I'm working on. That like if somebody asks me, do you believe in the hereafter? I say absolutely 1000%, right? It's in the Quran. We will be resurrected. That's why we're doing the, trying to be righteous, following God's true religion, one and only true religion. But there's some messenger, I don't remember, my memory is like I'm a bit sick. Messenger God said we endowed him with the awareness of the hereafter. So I pondered upon this particular word, awareness. Is this like, you're you're in a garden, right? You're standing in a garden, you're in a garden, but your mind could be somewhere else. Are you 100% aware what surrounds you right now? Are you in that moment? You know, is your mind full of that awareness? So that's a gift from God, and we should ask for it actually, to grant us the awareness that we are aware of it all the time. Imagine if you are aware of something. Knowledge is one thing. I have knowledge that Australia exists, right? I do, 100%. It's on the map of the world. Never been there. I'm not aware of how it feels, when you are in a desert or different landscapes of Australia or something. But if I'm there, seeing it, feeling it, then I would be really aware of Australia and its environment and it's all that. So when God describes so much about the hereafter, heaven and hell, we believe it, but rarely we feel it, you know? Sometimes we would feel it and we will have like goosebumps, like, oh my God. I don't want to end up in hell. I don't, and how magnificent heaven feels. But that doesn't kind of last all day long. I think as we are aware of God in our thoughts, we should be as much aware of the hereafter. And that's the belief, that we should, I'm speaking for myself, that I pray that I get more aware of the hereafter than this world. We are aware of this world. Like I know this is my way to go to work and the shopping and the mall is over there. I'm aware, but it's not on my mind all the time, right? That's the knowledge I have. I see it. So inshallah, God will make us feel it, God willing. Just my personal thinking.
Yeah, mashallah, sister. The more awareness we have, the hereafter, the more picture becomes clear. Like if you pick up a binocular and if it's completely out of focus, all you're gonna see the white light. But as you focus more and more, the picture becomes clear. And the more awareness we have, it will change our life. It's like they're certain about hereafter, the righteous, and God is not only mentioning, focusing more on believer and also the part of the righteous. They go hands in hands. And the verse that you were mentioning was Surah 38, verse number 45.
45.
Yes, 38, 45. It says, remember also our servants Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They were resourceful and possessed vision. So they were resourceful and possessed vision. So who gave them resource? God. We bestow upon them a great blessing of awareness of the hereafter. They were chosen, for they were among the most righteous. Remember, and then, so they were chosen because they were righteous among the most. So, if we, and these are lessons for us, if we focus more and more of being righteous, that will become, picture will be more and more crystal clear about the hereafter, and everything just fall in the right place. Mashallah. Thank you.
Yeah, mashallah. Being righteous is the key. the more you seek God and more knowledge He bestows upon you, because the seeker gets it, right? If we're not even seeking and we're content with whatever knowledge we have, um, and we're doing the minimum criteria, the basic, doing salat, doing zakat, but then doing extra righteous works and meditations and all that, which I personally am very inconsistent about. And may God grant me more steadfastness when it comes to meditations, inshallah. Then God bestows these kind of gifts upon them, those who are worshiping Him day and night, seeking Him day and night, devoting their love and their worship to God alone. Then God gives them awareness, meaning that they are aware of, it's like they're in the hereafter while living here, That's the real, because when God says this life is an illusion, meaning that life they're living while they're even on earth, because their belief is so strong that they feel it and they're like prepared and ready for that life and looking forward to it. And most of the time we're looking forward to things, short-term goals, long-term goals here. We're planning for it. God says prepare for the day when no soul, this and that, I'm just summarizing. Do we prepare day and night, like real preparing? We do prepare for our, next big purchase, or my 5-term goal, 5-year long goals, and 10-year retirement goals, and this and that, my children's education. We prepare very well. We do not prepare for the hereafter all the time, doing the basic. But in this life, if you see, we do more than the basic. We want to excel in one job and after another, one raise and after another. We're preparing for that next raise or the next gig or whatever that is. And that is the reality of many people. And I'm one of those, It's not like I'm really preparing day and night. I believe I'm doing, like basic. But that comes to my mind that I should be excelling. I should be planning and preparing my suitcase or my luggage, if the hereafter is on my mind. Thank you for listening. I'm a bit emotional today.
Masha Allah, Sister Nibrat. It's it's a great reminder. We all need to be reminded about the hereafter, because and I think one of the great things about reading the Quran and knowing the difference between heaven and hell, it's like then when we read it as a family, we're like, oh my God, I don't want to go there. So then it renews you that, okay, I need to strive more. But it's always good to get good reminders that we need to really strive for the hereafter.
Yeah, mashallah. And basically when I talk, I'm the first person who is reminding to herself. So it's mostly self-talk, really.
Yeah. Actually, the verse, so verse 38-46, when it talks about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it, what came out to me also was God said He bestowed them with a great blessing and awareness of the hereafter. And in terms of Jacob, we know he had like about 12 sons, and we know that only one son that we know of would have made it to a good place out of 12 sons. And it reminds us that the children that we have, we're not in a way, yeah, we have to mold them, but they're individual soul, and we cannot control where they're going. Same thing with our parents. Same thing with our siblings, the people that we love the most. We cannot help them, because Jacob had awareness of the era hereafter, and we know only one of his children that would have gone to the good place.
Masha Allah, they all made it then. At the end, they were all believers. No, that's definitely a very important point that God says invite. That's our duty, right? To invite them to the right path. And that's one of it's for our soul, right? That we don't miss that part. We cannot be negligent about it, because then God forbid, these children will say, oh, you never told us, right? Because as we know, there will be a feud, God forbid, in the hell, people will be screaming at each other, why didn't you tell us? So that's because we know, like, even prophets and messengers could not guarantee salvation for their children or family or spouse. So we can, mashallah, we invite them as being part of our fundamental duties after we have children. But the rest, absolutely, their individual soul, and they will have their own test, even though they're being raised as submitter. They're gonna be tested. Maybe their tests are gonna be even harder than us, because they're second generation. They come from knowledge. They're growing up in that environment, and they have no oppression, and they don't have to fight people to tell them, oh, by the way, this is my religion, or they have to hide from people and fear of losing relationships and whatnot and friendships. Their test would be very different from us, but test is gonna be there. My goodness, to really, like, okay, here's a situation, and now you tell me, you say you are a submitter, you say you're a believer. These tests, I tell you, may God make them, or make us pass these tests. Inshallah.
I tell you,
They're not easy.
they come from every direction.
Every direction.
Every direction.
Because you, like Rashad said, you were like rock or something, and then you were chiseled into a diamond. That takes a long time for that process.
Yeah, I really like how Rashad said, we arrogantly thought we would come to Earth and pass this test. We thought it would be easy, to worship God alone. But now that we're here, we realize it's hard. And unfortunately, only a few will make it. And we're tested all the time. And God knows exactly the best tests for each of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
For sure.
Oh, and also, I always think, it's, I don't know, maybe it's human nature, but like traditional Muslims, they think, you call yourself a Muslim, you go to heaven.
Oh, yeah. Easy.
And as a kid, I used to see in my little town, the little Islamic center that we had, all the fighting and the carrying on and the barring different sects from the mosque or the Islamic center. And yet all these people thought they're going to heaven.
Mm.
And then you look at Rashad and all the good things he did. And near the end of his life, he almost got fired. So if Rashad did all those good things and almost got fired, what hope is there for the rest of us? I think that's a good reminder.
Exactly. But God tells us that even messengers and prophets screamed, where is that victory? The tests were so hard that they had to scream. They were God says they were shaken up. God is running everything. God was testing them too. Each and every messenger went through the test.
And even they need reassurances, right?
They need reassurances. I mean, look at Jonas. He got fired so badly. Almost got fired, right? God knew that they will pass the test. It's only God knew. But look at they had to go through those hoops to prove. I mean, Jonah made himself quit the job.
And God says, he would have stayed in the belly of the fish till the day of resurrection or day of judgment.
Oh my God. Maybe sitting alive there. Oh my God, if God wanted, he would do that.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Actually, when you said to the point of shaken up, it's like we're being shaken of all the material thing, all the materials of this world to just shake off out of us.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's a good
Good
way to
one.
think of it.
Yeah. Shake off that baggage you're carrying, people. Yeah. Empty yourself. Surrender. Yeah. We're by nature we wanna hold on to that false center what we have created inside us that thinks it has some kind of power to, hold on to something, and maybe I do this, maybe I could have, would have, should have. But once we empty that, God wants freedom for us. God says, we unburdened your load that you were carrying on your back. So with submission comes freedom. It's we who are clinging on to a false something which we think it's me, and if I don't hold it, I'm going to lose it. No, it's the other way around. The false center has to disappear, which is that center has been created through all the input from the world and its people who are actually not believers in God. They are telling you, you must do this in order to be succeeded. You do this, you do that. This is how you should behave. This is how your house should look like, and all that. So that creates another entity which wants to comply to those things. And we forget, what we simply need to do is follow the Quran and empty that. Take that false center out, which is called ego. Some Indian, I mean, that guy did not really live a righteous life, but his explanation about the ego is so right on that it's crazy.
Ooh,
He's a bad guy actually. He was a cult leader. Osho.
not
Um,
familiar.
you haven't heard it? The Indian guru with he was very rich and like a crazy, people in Hollywood and Bollywood, they were all just following him, and there were Rolls Royces and everything. But if you Google, no, that there was even a documentary. I saw the documentary much later, but I read his writings long time ago. The only good thing come out from him, he must have gotten the grasp of ego definitely very truly, but then he got messed up like many people do get. It gets to their head. If you Google ego, the false center, and this guy's writings will come, my goodness, he explains from the birth to how this develops and how it is so dark and bad thing. It's just amazing. I've never seen the most true description and philosophy behind the ego. What is ego and how it gets created?
I found it by Oso.
Yeah, by Osho.
Yeah, I found it. Good.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Masha Allah, do read, Pamela. It's so beneficial. I actually once gave a sermon to my daughters on this topic, and I read from it. It's just really like a submitter would write it, but this guy became very corrupt later on. Anyway.
Mm. Was he part of a religion or submission?
No, just he was spiritual leader in somehow but it was, became very free and liberal. He was from a Hindu background,
Oh,
but
okay.
this part, just I don't know the rest of his philosophy or what he got really bad. But the thought about what ego is and how he described it was really, really like somebody, a submitter, would have
Wow.
words. And yeah, I was very impressed. But that's the end of it.
Is it on YouTube?
Everybody has some good qualities.
Is it on YouTube?
I
No,
actually I put
he is not
false
alive anymore.
Adam. I put false center, ego the false center, and I
Yeah.
got the article.
Yeah, that you will get him the
Would you share?
Yeah, I got
on
it.
instant message.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just only read that, and then you don't need to read anything else about this guy. He had a big fellowship, but he eventually became, in today's time, we have cult leaders like Adib, right? They were given certain knowledge, privilege to be the elite of the elite if they wanted to. But then, things get to their heads. This guy must have been endowed with certain knowledge, but then he just started to abuse his powers, and really, like, the cult he led was just became like these free, like they were doing a lot of bad stuff. I don't know.
I just wanted to clarify a little bit. When I was talking about the hereafter, I'm actually more focused on improving my certainty of the day of judgment, and in doing that, because if you're certain about the day of judgment, then your behavior in this world will be more righteous, I assume. I think of heaven, and I think of hereafter a lot. So it's not that I am uncertain about the hereafter, and I probably think about hell a lot more than heaven. And actually, sometimes I think I should think of all the good things in heaven and how it will be unbelievably happy and everything. I should think about that more as a motivation or something. But yeah, I'm more trying to improve on having more certainty around the day of judgment, and the hope that that will make me a better person, behave better, and everything else. Praise God. Oh,
Yeah,
God,
Masha Allah. You're right. That is something my mind personally got so scared that I don't want to even encompass it. The day of judgment is just, I'm so scared of it. It is so huge. Like, God calls this an awesome day. When God calls something awesome, like, we cannot even imagine. And it is so much description about it that, like, my mind just shuts down automatically and says, okay, I cannot think about it. That's you're right. Like, that day is so heavy and so awesome. And to be prepared for that day requires something like really serious efforts. Yep, I hear you.
So maybe I can ask a question. How can we become more certain or increase our certainty about the day of judgment? For example, I try and think about me being there on the day of judgment, standing there, and massive crowd around me. Try to visualize it, I guess. Is there anything else I can do?
Just being more reverence in the contact prayer, being aware of that there are two angels with us. All these things that we cannot see, but we know. Just imagine think about you have a cell phone, and there's a network around yourself, but you cannot see the network of the cell phone. But you're certain it's there. How do you know? You pick up your phone and you see the bars, and I have a network around me. You're absolutely certain. That the kind of certainty, you have angels around you. The more you think, the more you reverence, the more you, I guess, King Pamela and others say that, the more we reverence to God and be aware that there is a day of judgment, the more it will become reality. I can share you a dream, a nightmare that happened to me, and it's nothing to, like, you can say, oh, he's bragging or something. It's just something happened, and then The only reason I share with a couple other people, few other people, but it's just to maybe because I have got a lot of benefit out of it, this dream, and then maybe it might, like we were just talking about Joseph, that he has dreams. So it's just, I mean, anything that good happens to us is from God. There's nothing good in our part at all. This dream could have landed on anybody. So I sometimes I think, should I share this dream or not? But it's a very powerful dream that shook me such badly that it's just, so don't think of anything, something. It's just a dream, a nightmare. As we know that when we are in dream, we are very conscious. We think that everything is real. We take everything seriously during the dream. We will act appropriately. If there's a nightmare, we will be scared. Really, we will wake up with sweat because we do really think the dreams are real. During that part, when we wake up, then reality kicks in and we say, oh, it was a dream. So in this dream, I'm seeing the day of judgment happening, and I don't even see the true reality of it. I just see the part that, have you seen the plus sign? Like there are two lines crossing each other and then they're going the other way. That's a sign of the plus. So there are two lines coming from one direction, from this side and the other side, and they're crossing in the middle. And then there's an angel standing there and giving out the reports of everybody, how you did. So everybody's scared, what's going to happen. And I have a little bit fear, but at the same time, I'm feeling confident that I'm just thinking about what I did, and it should be good. I'm just comforting myself as everybody just walking one by one forward, and the fear is getting worse and worse. As I got close to I cannot see the figure of the angel. I was more paying attention of the other person coming from the other side. There's like a cross. So I'm on one side and the other person coming from my right side, like a 90-degree angle. And his skin turned so pale and white that his eyes become just like, the eyes, black eyes, the retina. I mean, it becomes so small. It become like a pencil. His fear is so much I can see on his face. That made me more afraid. The fear I saw in his face, and he has two companions with him. I don't know what are those. They're short, and they're two, I don't know, they're kids or what is that, but they're two companions with him. I'm just looking at his fear in his face, and all of a sudden then my turn comes and they hand me the report. So I take the report, and then as the plus sign crosses each other, some people go straight and some people go left. I go left. I'm coming from downward and I'm going left. I start walking. I haven't opened my report yet. I take a few steps and then I open my report. It says you have failed. So the thing happened that I'm in dream, but I am thinking at that time that it's a real life. It's happening. It's a day of judgment. And then I stop. I fall on my knees, and this thought over and over. You know what? I haven't even processed the information. When you're shocked with something, information, you haven't processed it yet. It's just hit right in your head, like when you're in an accident. The real thought comes later. Right now, you're processing what's just happened right now, and there's one thought keep going in my head. What I'm gonna do? What am I gonna do? This thought keep on circling. I forgot about everything because I know I cannot go back in the day in this world to correct myself. This is it. This is my result. It keeps circulating my head for a brief time. At the same time, I'm shocked, and it's like one of the worst nightmares. I mean, I have seen a lot of nightmares, but this pretty much tops it because I haven't even processed anything yet. The thought is keep circling my head. What I'm gonna do? What am I? I'm telling myself. I've fallen on my knee. I'm keep telling me, what are you gonna do now? I mean, just because as we learn from the Quran, there's no going back, and God's not gonna forgive you if you fail. So it scared me so much in the dream. And the beautiful part is that this dream has a meaning. That's why for a long time I thought about to pray to God that should I share this dream or not, but it has a lot of meaning because whenever I have a nightmare, when I go through the crisis, I wake up. when you're really afraid for your life, your dream breaks and you wake up. God did not let my dream break. It continued, even in that scary part, that the thoughts keep going in my head. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to keep over and over and over falling on me? And I haven't even processed the rest of the information that there's a hell waiting for me and the angels are going to come and drag me over. All those thoughts haven't even kicked in yet, but I'm just thinking, what am I going to do? Such a fearful situation. And then all of a sudden I hear a voice. See, God could have broken that dream and I would have lived my rest of my life thinking that I'm going to fail. But there's a sound comes from the back, and the angel that gave me the report, I think that's the same one, says, stop, we gave you the wrong report, come back. Or also they say that we were joking with you, something like that, in a
Oh
funny
my
way.
God.
They were like, but it's a lesson that
amazing.
God was probably trying to teach me, the feeling of being failed on the day of resurrection, the true feeling. I mean, we can even embrace the true feeling, but it was the feeling that what would you feel on the day of. So the dream didn't break, it continued, and the angel calls me back and takes my report from me and trying to give me the other report. But at that point, the dream, I woke up. God did not show me my true report, but at the same time, God showed me how it feels to be fail on the day of resurrection. And the feeling, I can tell you, because I've been through that dream, it's horrible. It's so worse that you don't even think about anything else at that point. You just focus on one point. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Like if you're in college, you fail, you say you can repeat the class, but here this one thought keep crossing my head. I haven't even begun to process anything else yet. And whenever I think about this dream, it just motivates. That's the only reason I'm sharing this dream with you guys. That it is a horrible feeling. And this is the true reality, that the report will be handed to us. And if it says fail, there is no going back. There is no going back. That's how horrible that is. So, Masha Allah.
Wow, that's
It
an
brings
amazing
tears.
dream,
Yeah.
Adam.
Yeah, mashallah, amazing dream.
I mean, my dream could have broken and I would have lived my whole life in fear that what if I fail? I saw the dream, but God continued my dream.
Wow.
I was like thinking, wow, I was just praising God. And honestly, God could have showed this dream to anyone. I didn't want to hold on to this information. I just said, okay, this happened to me. When something good happens to us, we share our story with other people so people can maybe learn. So this is just something that happened to me and I'm sharing. It's nothing good on our part, absolutely not. So all absolutely good comes from God.
Mashallah, thanks for sharing, Adam. Steve was asking, like, how do we become more certain about it? Just my personal sharing. Everybody,
Mm.
I guess, have their own way of being reverent and thinking about the hereafter. First, I think the first step is to become very certain about God's promises, right? For example, I'll give you an example. Last night we were having a Quran study and I shared this with them. There is a verse about when alone in their privacy, they reverence God, right? It's like, we sometimes you're alone, nobody's watching you, and how do you reverence God is that, for example, you're watching a movie alone, there are no children sitting or some kind of lewd scenes come. It's a good movie, but suddenly a stupid unnecessary nudity comes and you turn your eyes away from it, right? Fearing God that, I shouldn't be watching this. And I gave another example, like before I became a submitter, if we went to this grocery store, grapes are something I'm never sure whether they're going to be sweet or not. And I can never handle a sour grape. So I would taste a couple of types of grapes. Now I cannot do that, It's like whether somebody's watching me or not, but that grape does not belong to me without paying for it, right? So when we start reverencing God, and some people show they just want to look righteous in front of people, right? But in their own private life, they're like, basically the hypocrites do that, right? Not a sincere believer would do that. That they will boast about their good works or something. But in our privacy, when we're thinking and fearing God for little things, being mindful is one thing, definitely. That being mindful when you're driving or sitting any idle time, and then we're thinking about God and just, and the other part is becoming certain about God's revelations. Uh, it's like for every commandment, we must take a stance, a strong stance against the falsehood. Anybody, you see, we cannot be, apathy is condemned. The majority of the belief is submitters is going to fall due to apathy. I tell you that. To turn the other way and not care, or being afraid of people, what they think about us. So let's hold on to the status quo about, oh, I don't want to rock the boat. If this issue is arising, it's gonna disunify the community or something. No, 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 no. God says, you love me the most. And if we don't love God the most, and our wholeheartedly we don't feel that we belong to God, we will not become certain about many things. Because, oh, I don't know, that element we have to, that's why we are here. Um, that element we have to kick out, and we become so certain about it that I only fear God alone. I don't care even if I have to just let go of all the relationships, everything. I cannot let go of God's approval. That is where, once we become certain about that, and we will be tested about it. It's not like without certainty, we're not going to even make it to heaven. Of all of God's revelations and all the God's promises. For example, I was discussing that fear is the tool of devil. You know, fear will come to you for or us to because of our weaknesses. For example, oh, you don't have money. What's going to happen tomorrow, or a month later, or a year later, 10 years later? That's fear, right? And then what if something happens to my children? What if I go out and coronavirus gets me, right? So when that fear comes, this is how I have started to handle it. Like, we are all creatures of, surrounded with fear. This society constantly gives you fear, fear, fear. What does God say? God says, God's allies have nothing to fear, nor will they grieve. So I right away replace that fearful thought or the idea of, first I say, Rabbi Auzbika min hamazati shayateen, Auzbika Rabbi yadarun. And then I say, did you know he was delivering? Yeah, I knew it. So nice. Thank you. And then I say, what is God's promise? God says, my allies have nothing to fear, nor will they grieve. So my question to myself is, am I God's ally? Am I, or I am lacking that I'm not still his ally, or he's not his party? God says God's party will rejoice. Am I lacking something that I don't consider me as God's party or his ally? That's why I'm weak. So then we really pinpoint our weakness, what areas we are not supporting God. We have to, God says, be my supporters. Be my supporter. Does God need our support? Where do we support God? How? Is he weak? Nauzbillah, no. Support is that when the majority is going this way and they are supporting falsehood, we support God, the truth. God is the ultimate truth. This is where we will become certain and fearless. the eliminating all the fears and trusting God is the goal in this life. Once we achieve that goal, everything is set, inshallah, because we will trust in any fearful situation, any Satan's idea of, oh, you're weak in this and you're weak in that, you'll never be able to do that, or you're going to lose this and that, or something will hurt this and that, and you're going to be poor next week or next month. No, God controls everything. So there are parts like first believing in God is running everything, not objecting, then taking all the fears out, inshallah. But it's a process, though. It's a process, and I know how I am evolving, and I look back, and I've been in submission more than 20 years. It's a very long process, and God willing, the goal is to become certain. Inshallah. Thank you. I hope I didn't take too much time.
Masha Allah, Sister Nubia, she did a good job explaining that.
Sorry, I think Adam, were you going to talk?
No, not me.
Okay. I was just going to say that one of the examples that I like of being certain about what God says, I think it's sometimes we can read the Quran and read what God says, but we don't place 1,000% certainty on what God says. We say we believe it, but we don't really believe it. And one example, the best example I like is Rashad was in the video of Rashad's last conference appearance. He's trying to explain to the audience about how he communicated with the angel Gabriel. And he mentioned that when Gabriel went to Mary, she thought he was Satan. And the same happened to Rashad. He thought Gabriel might be Satan and said, don't get away from me. Are you Satan or something? And Gabriel said to him, but didn't you say, I seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected? And I love that, because to me it's like, wow. It's clear that the angels, they believe every statement that God makes 1,000%. When Gabriel says, but didn't you say, I seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected? When we read that, we think, oh, God willing, God will protect us from Satan the rejected. But when the angel reads that verse, they know 1,000% God will protect them. And to me, that's a great example of really realizing that every statement that God makes in the Quran is true. It's not could be true, might be true under certain circumstances. It's the truth.
Exactly.
And that actually blows my mind a lot. I actually get emotional when I think about that. When Gabriel said that, I was like, wow, that really hits home to me. That are we that certain? Or do we trust God's words that much?
Well, that's the goal, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to read the Quran and we believe that, and I hear it in the Quran studies, and I'm not saying I doubt the sincerity or intentions of the other submitters, but it's easy to maybe take these things for granted. And we, the goal, like you're saying, is to be absolutely certain.
Yes, Steve, we would not become certain about these things. God puts us through tests, and then we become certain. Then He shows when we pass the test, then the certainty comes. Then you see signs. Yeah. You see signs. God will show you clear signs. That
I
is
have
His.
some. I have some.
Yeah, I had some too, and on certain tests, and those were not easy tests. but I had such clear sign. But you have to go through that threshold. It's not easy. The process is lengthy and lots of perseverance and steadfastness is needed. But like you're saying, when God says his promise is the truth, meaning that's the science, right? That's in modern words. It's scientific. We have to believe it's tangible. We should, because we see God's marvels everywhere. We see the miracle of math in the Quran, and we know God exists. Why aren't we believing his words? But then we say we want to believe, and then God says, okay, here is a test for you. Now prove it to me that you believe it. And the whisper comes, oh, be afraid. So how to deal with that whisper is like, this is what I'm exercising these days, is that I tell myself, I do not want to be afraid. Am I God's ally or not? Because God says, my allies have nothing to fear, nor will they grieve. Why am I afraid? So I am still not there. So I gauge myself, right? But I say, I want to be God's ally. I do not want to be. I am his ally. I reassure myself. I reassure myself. I say, I am his ally. I love God, and I think about him all day long. Whenever any chance you get, you think about God. And why am I afraid? I'm going to dismiss this thought. And of course, what God has told me what to say, God tells us that Satan's visitors will come to you. They only come to his worshippers, right? Because Satan doesn't care about those who are written off. They're already done for. So, mashallah, this is how I literally exercise. I'm putting, that knowledge into practical theory. When that thought comes, I'm like, no. I'm just sharing it. I don't know. Everybody has their own way of, reassuring their own faith, and God reassures the faith, basically. Even gives you that thought to encounter that.
Yeah, I recently listened to Rashad talking about submitters having no fear and no grief. But the way he talked about it was interesting, because it was sort of different to how I sort of think of it. Because in my thinking, I think if I have any fear, then I'm sort of outside God's kingdom, because I've got this fear. Whereas Rashad sort of, I don't know how he explained it, was a different way, and I can't explain it now. I need to listen to it again to explain it properly, but it was quite interesting to me. Because in my mind, I think, if I have fear, then I'm not submitting. But Rashad sort of said it differently. But sorry, I can't explain it now. Actually, I've got a question for you guys. Let me see if I can explain this question properly. Next week at work, I've got an important task to do. And I have one other colleague that I'll be working on this task with. And this other colleague he's worked at this place for a long time, so he knows exactly what to do. But he's a bit of a cunning fox. He's traditional Muslim, actually. So he will, instead of telling me clearly what we both need to do, he'll just start doing what needs to be done, and I'll try and figure out what he's doing and follow along. So because this task is very important, if something goes wrong, it can cause major problems for us and for everybody at work. So I've been thinking about, I think I need to send him an email and warn him that there's certain things he needs to do. Otherwise, I'm not going to agree to work with him on this task, because I want to feel that I'm at the right starting point to work on this task, and there's I don't have any doubts about what we're meant to be doing. Obviously, things can crop up during the task, which we don't know about beforehand, but I don't want to have doubts about the other things that we should know about beforehand. So I've been wondering in my mind, should I email this guy and tell him and maybe copy my managers? And I haven't quite. I was thinking it's fair to do that because I'm warning him. But then I was just thinking and sending him an email and saying, okay, I need certain things to be satisfied before I'm happy to do this task with you. Is that a form of fearing something that I shouldn't be fearing? And should I just be trusting in God more? Or is it fair that I can warn this guy that, you need to do this and this? I hope that makes some sense to somebody.
Yeah, the only thing I can add to that is that one of the sermon by Messenger of the Covenant, he says, to do this zikr, the God is running everything, God is doing everything, until every cell in our body is saying with us that God is doing everything. And just like in life, for the whenever you make a decision or something, and you should trust in God. And if you think that this is the right thing, in the right way to, educate the other person and maybe explaining to the person that these things can go wrong, and what are the plans, like what you are in. I recently had a similar situation, maybe not to that extent. We had issue going on in our company, and then I told my boss, this is going on, and before I was afraid of it, if I tell him, he'd get upset with me or something. But this was my concern. I brought it to his attention, and he gave me a couple of simple answers. Okay, this is what they're doing. And my intention was right, for the better for the company, and something I saw that can, hurt. So when I brought into their intention, so that's what I can put input into it, and maybe another can add something to it.
Yeah, sorry, I was pretty vague about what the thing
I
is at work, so it's
I
probably a
actually
bit hard
lost
to
you
relate.
somewhere in the middle, Steve.
Maybe I
My bad. I just my mind wandered off. I started to listen, and then you stretched it a little bit longer.
Oh, you need to talk to Solomon about that. Solomon's got a one-word answer for that one. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would say I was afraid of my situation, that if they get upset, that, well, who are you making decisions? But it was my concern. I brought into their attention. This is, so I don't know if that helps in any way.
No, it doesn't.
But, we should have full trust in God. About your other thing that you were saying, that faith increase in God, is one time Solomon was saying in another Quran study that when a fear kicks in, the fear will try to push you backward, but you, despite of having fear in your heart, you just do what God is saying. You don't, it's gonna be, the fear will be in your heart like waves, like shaking you badly, but you just keep up, and you said, at that point you may not have that kind of strength to remove heart, but it's there in your heart, but you do what God is saying. And maybe one or two times this may happen, and then eventually the fear will be gone. And I have practiced that in my in my personal experience, that is true. That the first couple of times I had a lot of fear about something, and then the fear was gone after that. And then similar situation I falls in, I don't even feel anything. It's just I totally feel like, and you know what? When you have a seed, you grow in the ground, and then the initial steps you grow the plant, and until you reach that, when you start having a reinforcement, when you start getting results, now that's the point you gotta stay fast. When you pick up the first fruit from your tree and you taste it,
that in reinforcement, now you have the ball that start rolling bigger and bigger from the mountain downward. The more you do it, the more reinforcement you feel, the more results you get, and it's just back and forth. Because we are human, without reinforcement, you cannot go to the gym and just keep working out without any result. In the beginning, maybe a few months, you will not see any result, but you gotta stay fast. You gotta keep on going. That's where people drop out in the gyms, because the new year resolutions, they're gonna see the results gonna happen, and the first 2-3 months goes by and nothing happens, and they drop out. You gotta reach the point where the result starts coming back, and when that happens, now you're selling fast. Masha Allah.
Yeah, mashallah. That's a really good example. And also, God tells us practice the religion of Islam. Practice. Like how we know that how basketball players, like I'm a fan of basketball game, and some athletes, I don't know if you have heard of Giannis, and I can't even pronounce his last name. It's a little difficult. He plays for Milwaukee Bucks. Really amazing athlete. He goes in the gym at 2:30 a.m. Practice. Throw that ball in the net. Throw that ball in the net. How many millions of times? Until they are perfect, until they're missing that shot decreases, that they're so certain about. They close their eyes and half the court they throw the ball and goes in. So we practice. Actually, how are we going to practice? We know all the knowledge, which is theoretical, right? In theory, we know everything now. MashaAllah, we have read the Quran studies, alone study, Rashad's studies, all the information, all the audio, video, appendices, perspective, and everything is there. Now we practice. Practice will happen. God is going to make us practice, because once again, the tests are very crucial. That's where you don't pass a test first time, second time, but like keep on pushing. The fear element has to go. God says, like, once again, how we practice a verse of God in real life. God says, God's allies have nothing to fear, nor will they grieve. So we have to eliminate, even though it's a process, but God says, do not fear them, fear me alone. So when we have fear of people, we're not trusting God. Okay, I'm coming. Okay, everybody, sorry, I have to go actually. I have talked a lot today, mashallah. Thanks for sharing your thoughts too. God willing, I have to go now.
Are we still on YouTube?
I don't know. I think so. I think Salãmun is
Where
off.
is he? Who's going to turn it off?
I don't know.
I don't know how to.
Salāmun Alaykum from me, inshallah.
Assalamu
Thanks.
alaikum.
Great study, praise
for
God.
all your input.
Hey, Steve, a quick note on that. I found the spot that I was looking for is a cross study audio tape number 38. If you want to write it down.
Oh wow!
And
38.
38, and when the clock is from minute 17 to 19 minute, between that, he's clearly talking about 2.5 zakat is the minimum. You can go even up to 50%. He's clearly explaining that part. Verse Quran study 38 at Mark 17.
What minute 17 did you say?
17, and when you reach the video at 17 minutes, then it's going to start talking about that. The 2.5 is the minimum.
Oh, yeah.
You can go up to 50% if you want to. I mean, that's just the minimum. As he clearly explains that. Mashallah.
Yeah.
I guess I also got to go. Inshallah, we'll see you on Wednesday.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Thanks, man.
Brother.
Good study, by the way. I just saw that. I heard the end of it, but I like to encourage everybody when they do their Quran study. So it's very good. Praise God.
So are we off from the YouTube?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, I'll let you do that. I'm going to take off. Inshallah, I'll see you Wednesday.
Okay. Thank you, Masha Allah.
Assalamu
Alaikum.
alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome. So for those of you guys who joined us on YouTube, God willing, our next study is going to be on Wednesday. Well, is it? Actually, wanted to talk about that. But usually it's going to be on Wednesday, but it might change. Anyways, thank you. God bless you guys. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Hey, Salman, I didn't hear you. You were MIA before.
Do you mean you didn't hear what he just said, or do you mean?
No, I didn't
Yeah.
hear Salman for the whole
Yeah, same.
thing.
I didn't either. I was like, wow, he's suddenly back.
Yeah.
He must be busy or something, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
Probably listening and can't comment, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey,
oh,
Steve,
yeah.
you should think of coming in the summer to the Toronto.
I heard that the next conference is going to be in Chicago.
Yeah, I saw it this morning.
So I thought, oh, that's close to Toronto,
Is it?
isn't it? Chicago's up north, right?
We're still. I still haven't stopped the broadcast, just so you guys know.
Oh, okay, Salman. Sorry.
It's okay. Just give me 1 second.